Raise your hand if you hate leather fragrances. Hey, Tim, Mohammed, Sarah, Karan, Paul. Okay, there's a few of you guys. First of all, kudos to you for being here, because why the heck would you click on a leather fragrances video if you don't like leather? Well, it must mean that you are willing to confront your fears. And honestly, that's how you win in life. But thankfully for you, this topic carries very little weight and the lowest bearing you can possibly imagine when it comes to success in your life. But if you do want to learn more about leather fragrances that you might like, as someone who is not crazy about leather, then you've come to the right place. We recently did a video like this based all around rose fragrances, and I know the few of you guys who checked that out really enjoyed it, so I appreciate your feedback, and that is mostly why we are back doing another part to this series that I'm kind of calling gateway fragrances. So it is what it sounds like. I'm presenting 8 fragrances that are primarily leather fragrances, and I know leather can be a polarizing note. Not everyone loves it, and it can be done in so many ways, some of which that are more digestible than others. And we're going to focus on the more digestible side of leather, but still interesting, still fairly unique, not run of the mill. There's going to be quite a number of fragrances in here that you may have never heard of or at least never tried. So if you are interested in kind of breaking down the barriers when it comes to your relationship with leather fragrances, hope you enjoyed the video. There's going to be links to every fragrance I'll talk about down in the description. So let's dive right into it. The first one up is a fragrance that has grown on me little by little by little. It's from the house of Room 1015 and it's called Cherry Punk. Now, if I'm not mistaken, they've already come out with a flanker to this. I haven't tried it. I don't really have any inclination to try it at the moment, but the original, which was very popular, is something that I just found okay, and that's not because of the leather, it's because of the cherry. This is a very authentically maraschino-like cherry fragrance, but there's more depth here than meets the eye. Originally, it was a little bit too syrupy for me, but the more I've gotten to know this fragrance, the more the leather has shown itself as something that adds dimension to this fragrance, so it's not actually too syrupy, at least for me. I love the leather nuance in here. It is supple, it is present, but it is not anything animalic or over the top or stinky or off-putting. It adds, once again, dimension to this otherwise very sweet cherry forward fragrance. There might be some woods in here, maybe some florals and spices. I don't remember everything else, but primarily I do get cherry and leather in the most authentic way. If that's something that interests you and you want a sweeter, more fruity, more lively approach to leather, then I would check out Cherry Punk from Room 1015. Let me know what you think if you've tried it. This next fragrance also features some cherry with some leather, but in a totally different way, which is so cool. From the indie brand Untamed Perfumes based up in Canada, they call this Running with Wolves. And I haven't actually experienced this fragrance in some time. I've had it for a couple years and I've always enjoyed it, but for whatever reason I've been overlooking it. It's perfect for this video. And I have to say that basically all the fragrances from this house are done in a beautiful way. It is a beautiful blend of artistry with accessibility. There's something about the way everything is just blended together as one, these very unified accords, very congealed in a way, and certain elements may dance in and out depending on your nose or your skin or the environment. And this one, again, it is fruity, it is cherry-like, but way toned back on the cherry. It's nowhere near as cherry forward. This is a little bit more bottom dominant, more leathery, woody, and maybe even a little bit animalic, but just a little bit to add some intrigue. And the cherry just adds a little bit of sweetness that makes it interesting in the air. You catch a whiff and you're like, oh, what was that? Was that something sweet? Oh, it's actually more than just something sweet. I love the leather note in here. It is also on the supple side, also on the natural, smooth side of things. So again, nothing super edgy. Once again, some animalic notes in here, but nothing really off-putting, at least in my experience. I know many of you guys probably have not tried this brand, so I'm going to link them down below. That is from Untamed Perfumes, Running with Wolves. Let's talk about a classic from a designer house, the house of Bottega Veneta. If you know anything about Bottega Veneta, of course they're going to be in this video about leather because they are known for their leather goods. They make some very fine luxury leather products like handbags and bags and things like that. And naturally, many of their fragrances have been also centered around the note of leather. I love the cohesiveness. This one is a classic. It's been out for probably 10 years now or more. It's called Bottega Veneta Homme. Simple as that. It is a collection that is mostly discontinued. They might be out there on the gray market sites from time to time. This one is still usually out there in many different places. And it is a green woody leather. There's something soft and natural about it. Something like being out in the forest, in the outdoors, surrounded by coniferous environment. There's trees, leaves, branches, woods and earth, and this soft, supple leather. It does have this fresh air flowing through it. Again, almost like the air out in a forest, but there's something like luxurious leather handbag about it. I don't know why you brought a luxurious leather handbag on your walk into the forest, but it smells great. Let me know what you think if you've tried Bottega Veneta Pour Homme. From perfumer Njie, based in London, and from her brand Njie, this is called Tobak. Tobak is, by the name, yes, a tobacco fragrance, but it's here for a reason. It's more than just that. It is a slightly earthy tobacco. There's something grounding about it. There's something kind of dense about it in its earthiness, very natural. However, it does have this leathery texture to it, and that is surrounded by musk. So the muskiness here is warm and enveloping. It just kind of captures the nose and it really textures the entire scent. In addition to that leather, it is quite musky, but there's a subtle sweetness and a warm spiciness from some tonka bean and from cinnamon. And it's very subtle. It's kind of wrapped up in the middle. It's shrouded. It's not something that screams out at you, but there is a subtle sweet facet that keeps this fragrance from being too earthy, leathery. Let me know what you think if you've tried this one. Again, I'm pretty sure many of you haven't. So links in the description. Now, I'll be honest with you, the next one up here is kind of a weird one, but I can't stop smelling it. I do have a special association with it, and that's just me. You might feel differently, but it is an interesting and I do believe approachable take on leather from the house of Mind Games. This is called Gardez. Such an odd pairing of notes here, but we have some leather and orris. We see leather and orris or iris from time to time. It is not all that uncommon, but blended with popcorn, buttered popcorn and blackberry leaf. What is going on here? This has this slightly dark fruity green freshness to it from that blackberry leaf, blended with the orris, which is kind of rooty and maybe a touch powdery. It kind of blends together to form more of a violet accord, more like the violet flower, which is kind of a sweeter, powdery floral. So even though there may not be official violet in here, if you don't like violet, it might come across as violet to you. So you've been warned in that regard. But buttered popcorn and black leather, man, what this smells like to me is the movie theater. It reminds me of going to the movies as a kid, smelling those leather seats, smelling that buttered popcorn just brings back beautiful memories. So once again, I have special association with this fragrance. As far as leather goes, it's an easy one. Again, it is black leather, but it's a soft, in the background type of black leather. It is just a supporting player to this popcorn, orris, blackberry, and other elements in there. It's different. I don't think there's anything that smells quite like this fragrance. So yes, it's a little strange, but it works. Maybe it interested you. I don't know. If it did, check it out. If you've already tried it, let me and everyone else know what you think of Gardez down in the comments. Tom Ford Tuscan Leather is not in this video for good reason. Beautiful leather fragrance, iconic, timeless masterpiece. However, it's not an easy one to approach. If you don't like leather, you probably won't like Tuscan leather. So we're not talking about it explicitly. However, there are many fragrances that it has influenced and inspired. And I think that's a beautiful thing. There are brands that have taken what that does and done their own thing with it, maybe in a reminiscent way, but not necessarily trying to copy it. So I wouldn't call this, and maybe even the next fragrance I'm going to share with you, clones of Tuscan leather, but they are related to it. They are cousins, they are inspired, but they do it in their own way. This first one up here is from Alghabra. They call it Ancient Fortress, and this is in that Tuscan leather vein, primarily because it has this feeling of a fruitiness with leather, almost like a red fruit, but I do think it's apple and it's not super forward. And in place of a forward fruitiness, we actually have a green, watery aspect. This is a green, watery leather with subtle, sweet, fruity nuances. Strangely enough, it's kind of a fresher, almost summer night kind of leather. It does have some presence to it. It does hang around on the skin. It does fill the air around you in a very luxurious way. The way it comes together is beautiful. And while at first sniff, it may remind you of Tuscan leather, when you actually get a full sniff, you realize this is its own thing. This does it its own way. Way more approachable, way more versatile than something like Tuscan leather. Let me know what you think. That's from Alghabra. Love this brand. It's called Ancient Fortress. As I alluded to earlier, another fragrance that might draw some inspiration from Tuscan leather, either directly or indirectly, is from Argos Fragrances, and they call it Bacio Immortale, which translates to Immortal Kiss. And this actually does feature raspberry with leather. Tuscan leather features raspberry, so does this. But there's something about the raspberry here, first of all, that is so realistic. It smells like real tart, slightly sweet, fruity raspberry, mouth-watering in a way. And the leather note here is nowhere near as brash and harsh and old leather armchair vibes, ashy as Tuscan leather can be. It is way more supple, a little bit smoky, maybe from some birch wood, but just a little bit. It's just lower to the ground. It's more of a kind of a low levitating leather rather than one that screams out and takes up the whole scent and takes up a lot of space. It is there, but it's not screaming. A little bit of a green quality here, tiny bit fresh, very elegant stuff. Once again, maybe a little bit parallel to Tuscan leather, but very easy to digest. I cannot stress that enough. Let me know if you've tried this one. You can use the code FRESH10 at Argos' website to save 10% on any purchase. As usual, we've been doing that promotion for years and years, so if you have yet to take advantage, then maybe take advantage if you're interested. That's Argos Bacio Immortale. And the final fragrance is from a house called Memoirs of a Perfume Collector. And this is a beautiful take on leather that is quite unique in its own subtle way. This is called Bond Street Leather. I love this beautiful bottle. It's simple. Love the cap. Love the label. Everything about this I enjoy, even aesthetically. And the scent is such an elegant leather. It is soft and smooth once again. We're talking about leather that does not grab you by the face and throw you to the ground, but it is noticeable. And to me, it's a little watery and almost kind of creamy, marshmallowy in a way. There's this almost delectable confectionery type of vibe to it, if that makes sense. Something gourmand-ish in the background of this soft, supple leather. That's again kind of fresh and watery, familiar, but unique all at the same time. So easy to understand, so easy to wear. And for a leather fragrance, I would say it's quite versatile. Maybe not my first choice for the hottest days in the summer, but summer nights, sure. Any other time of the year, definitely. Let me know what you think of this one if you tried it. That's Bond Street Leather from Memoirs of a Perfume Collector. All right, once again, everything will be linked down in the description. I want to know what you think of these fragrances. If you've tried them, let me know down in the comments. And thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.